I wasn't looking through his things. His laptop was open on the coffee table, and he was asleep next to me on the couch, half under a blanket, breathing slow like he always does when he passes out during some long documentary. The video had paused at the credits. I reached over to close the lid like I've done 100 times. But I noticed something first. A folder was open in the background, not minimized, just sitting there in the corner. The name of it looked like gibberish, or maybe Latin. Weird mix of capital and lowercase letters. Nothing I recognized. I hesitated. And I know this is where people might judge me, but I clicked. Not because I was suspicious, but because I didn't recognize the folder. And because the name, whatever it was supposed to mean, gave me a weird feeling in my stomach, like it wasn't meant to be seen. We've been together for almost 4 years, living together for a little over 2. He's always been quiet, a little introverted, not the most expressive person, but kind, reliable, the kind of guy who makes sure there's always gas in the car before a road trip and checks in when I'm out late. He gets overwhelmed in social settings sometimes and tends to hyper-focus on specific things. Music theory, obscure documentaries, random historical stuff. One of those things has always been death, not in a creepy way. He watches true crime, yes, but so do I. He reads about funerals in different cultures, has a favorite cemetery in town he likes to walk through. He's mentioned before that he thinks grief is one of the most human experiences. He lost both of his parents when he was young and a younger sibling when he was in college. I always thought that's where it came from. I thought it helped him cope, but this wasn't that. Inside the folder were more folders. Dozens, all named with strange titles. Stillness, Elegy, She Remains, Collection A, Nightskin, Preserved. I opened the first one without thinking. The contents weren't pornographic, but they weren't innocent either. They were photos of people, not alive. Some clearly from clinical or medical sources. Autopsy tables, clean lighting, gloved hands. I could tell some of them were probably from textbooks or mortuary training videos. But others, they were different. Zoomed in. Soft lighting. A girl's hand resting on a white sheet, pale skin almost glowing under the flash. A close-up of someone's mouth, slightly parted. There were tags on some files. Captions written, in all lowercase, like, the silence of her throat, barely touched, last breath, first piece. I felt frozen. My hand was on the trackpad, but I couldn't move it anymore. I clicked on another folder. Favorites. Inside were several images, not just photos, but also short clips, like phone videos. Some appeared to be taken in funeral homes. One showed someone adjusting a woman's hair in a casket. The video had been cut, so the loop repeated just that movement over and over. There were no watermarks. I backed out of the folder and opened his browser. I know I shouldn't have, but something had shifted in me. I had to know if this was something he just found, or something he created. The tabs weren't incriminating, just YouTube and Wikipedia. But I checked the history. That's where everything got worse. He was part of forums I'd never heard of, private boards, usernames I didn't recognize until I looked closer and realized they were his, just slightly changed from the ones he used for gaming and email. He posted regularly, wrote things, long romantic descriptions of eternal beauty and untouched rest. He used language like offering devotion to form when life has left it. He commented on other users' uploads, mostly respectful sounding, but the tone made my skin crawl. One comment just said, "She looks like she could wake up at any second, but won't." I shut the laptop, didn't slam it, didn't cry. I just stared at the blank screen for what felt like an hour. He was still sleeping beside me, his mouth slightly open. One of his arms slumped across my knee. I didn't move. My chest felt cold and hollow. My stomach felt tight, but my brain hadn't caught up to any reaction yet. I didn't even know what I was reacting to. He's never hurt me, never said anything even close to threatening. He treats me well, pays attention, supports me. But something about what I saw, the intentional way it was all saved, sorted, written about, it didn't feel like harmless, morbid interest. It felt personal, obsessive, quietly consuming. I didn't say anything that night. When he woke up, I told him I wasn't feeling well and went to bed early, slept in the guest room. He didn't ask why, just said, "Okay, love you," and turned on the dishwasher. I've been pretending everything's normal since, but now I don't know what any of it means, and I don't know who I'm sleeping next to anymore. I didn't say anything the next morning. I wanted to. I even practiced lines in my head while brushing my teeth. But when he walked into the kitchen and smiled at me like nothing had changed, I froze. He made coffee, asked if I wanted toast or yogurt. I said toast. My voice sounded normal. I watched him while he stood at the counter, spreading butter like it was any other Tuesday, and all I could think about was the folder, the captions, that looped video, the way he had categorized it all so carefully, like it was a project he'd been building for years. He didn't act weird. He wasn't distant or nervous or hiding anything. If anything, he seemed more relaxed than usual. I went through the motions the rest of the day. Work emails, Zoom call, washed my hair, tried to eat lunch but barely got through it. I kept hearing his voice in my head from old conversations, stuff that didn't stand out before, like the time he told me he thought death was the ultimate form of stillness, or when I fell asleep on his chest and he whispered that I looked so peaceful like that. I used to find those things sweet. Now they echoed in a way that made my stomach twist. At one point that afternoon, I sat on the floor of the guest room and just stared at the edge of the carpet. Not crying, not panicking, just disconnected. Like I'd stepped out of my life and was watching someone else live it for me. I started thinking about all the things I didn't know about him. I know his favorite coffee order. I know the songs he skips in the car. I know he likes to sleep with socks on. But I didn't know about this. I didn't know he was writing essays about dead bodies, or commenting on strangers' photos with phrases like captured in perfect silence. I started wondering what else I'd missed, what else he'd kept to himself. That night, he suggested we watch a movie. I said sure. He let me pick. I chose something light, a rom-com I'd seen before, just to have something on. Halfway through, he fell asleep on the couch again. I stared at the TV, but didn't see any of it. I just kept looking over at him and wondering who he really was. I didn't sleep in the guest room that night. I laid next to him like always. He turned over in his sleep and put his arm around me. I didn't move. I kept my eyes open until the sun started coming in through the blinds. The next morning, I got up early and opened his laptop again. I needed to know more. Not just what was there, I already knew too much. But why? I started reading the documents, not just the captions and comments, but the actual files. He had written pages and pages of what I guess were essays or personal reflections. One was titled The Beauty of Absence. It was 6 pages long. It talked about how society runs from the concept of death, how most people ignore it, fear it, but that to him, it represented something pure. He wrote about the art of lifelessness and how true devotion only exists when the subject can't respond. That line made me close the laptop. I felt sick. He hadn't done anything wrong. Not technically. But I couldn't unsee the way he looked at silence. Like it was beautiful because it couldn't argue. Because it couldn't say no. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, holding my phone in my hand. I thought about texting my sister, or my best friend. But I didn't want to explain it. How do you explain something like this without sounding unhinged? Hey, I found out my fiancé writes romantic death essays and has a folder full of strangers' embalmed bodies. It sounds like I'm making it up. It sounds like fiction, but it's not. He came home that evening with takeout, my favorite, said he wanted to surprise me. I smiled, said thank you, ate 3 bites, told him I was tired. He offered to do the dishes, kissed my forehead, and I stood there in the hallway afterward, wondering what was real. Was he always like this? Or did he become this person slowly, while I wasn't looking? Or worse, did I see it, and just not want to see it? I keep telling myself I need more time, that I should wait to talk until I have the right words. But what if there aren't right words for this? What if the only thing I can say is, I'm scared and I don't know why? I still haven't confronted him, but every night I go to bed a little farther from him in the bed. And every morning I wonder how much longer I can pretend this is normal. I thought I'd confront him by now. I really did. I thought I'd reach a point where I couldn't carry this alone anymore and just blurt it out over coffee or something. But every time I get close to saying anything, I stop myself. He's been exactly the same. Kind. Attentive. Brings home snacks he knows I like. Asks how my day was. Still calls me babe when he's half asleep. Still picks the parts of dinner I don't like off my plate and eats them like he always has. That makes it harder. If he had started acting distant or weird, if I'd noticed even one shift in his behavior since that night, maybe I'd have something to grab onto. But no. He's just him. Which only makes me feel more like I'm the one with a secret. And I guess I am. I know what's on his computer. I know about the folders, the captions, the stories. He doesn't know that I know. And now I've been pretending for so long that the idea of bringing it up feels impossible. We had dinner with friends last weekend. I watched him laugh at dumb jokes and pass around plates of pasta like someone who had nothing to hide. On the drive home, he held my hand, and I kept thinking, is this real? Is any of this real? I don't know if I'm scared of him or scared of what it means that I'm still here, because staying has its own kind of weight. Every day I don't speak up, I feel it settle deeper into my chest. I've started having dreams. In them, he's just standing there, staring at me, not doing anything, not hurting me, just watching, like I'm an object, like he's studying me. I wake up anxious, sometimes nauseous, and still, I don't say anything. I get up, make coffee, go to work, smile when he texts me memes. We're 6 months out from the wedding. Everything is locked in. The venue, the vendors, the guest list. My dress is still in the closet, zipped up in a garment bag I can't bring myself to unzip. I haven't told anyone what I found. Not my sister, not my closest friend, not even the therapist I briefly saw a few months ago before quitting. Because what would I even say? There's no crime, no violence, no clear boundary crossed. It's all just feelings, gut instinct, a sense of wrongness that I can't shake, but can't explain either. And maybe that's why I'm stuck. Because how do you end something over something you can't even name? Some nights I try to rationalize it. It's just a strange interest. It's weird, yes, but maybe he doesn't act on it. Maybe it's just fantasy or grief or something he never meant for anyone to see. But then I remember the way he wrote about it, the tenderness, the adoration, the way he described stillness, like it was sacred. I'm not stupid. I know the difference between someone coping with trauma and someone romanticizing control. That's what this feels like. And the thought that he could be looking at me through that same lens, not now, maybe not yet, but eventually, makes my skin crawl. I'm not saying I think he's dangerous, but I don't think he's safe either. And maybe those two things aren't always opposites. I think what scares me the most is how easy it's been to pretend, to go along with it, to keep sleeping beside him, to keep planning a wedding with someone who might love me for all the wrong reasons. I keep waiting for a sign, something to force me to move, a moment where I catch him again, or where he slips up. But maybe that won't happen. Maybe it'll be me. Maybe I'll be the one who walks out in the middle of a perfectly normal day because I finally decide that nothing happened isn't a good enough reason to stay. Because I don't want to live like this. Not wondering what he sees when he looks at me. Not holding my breath every time I think about our future. Not being this version of myself that's always pretending to be fine. I still haven't confronted him. But I think I'm going to leave. Not with a dramatic exit. Not with accusations. Just gone. Because maybe I don't need him to confess. Maybe I don't need proof. Maybe I just need to trust the part of me that looked at those folders and felt something snap. And if that makes me the bad guy, fine. I'd rather be safe and uncertain than married and quietly terrified.